Hi, in this Unity tutorial we'll get the webcam rendering onto a quad so you can display it in your scene like this. I'm using a long-term support version of Unity 6 with the standard 3D URP Unity project for this. It should work with any template. Let's add a simple quad to render our webcam to. Right-click, 3D object, quad. Let's call it webcam. All my webcams are 16:9. So let's just scale our quad so it has the right dimensions. So set the X scale to 16 and the Y scale to 9. Let me just move the scene to get the quad nicely centered in the view. I can then right click on the main camera and select Align with View. You can see now on the game screen the camera is pointing at our quad. Our webcam is essentially a series of static images which we can render to a material's texture each frame. Depending on how you want the webcam to look in your project, there are different ways you can approach the material. For simplicity, let's create a new material we'll call webcamMaterial. At the top of this, in the inspector, we can set the shader. We'll set this to Unlit Texture. We can drag this onto our quad now. You could have this material lit, depends if you want shadows to be cast onto it or not. Let's right-click, create monobehavior script, which we can call webcam and drag onto our quad. Let's jump straight into the script and get the webcam output rendered. This is going to be a very simple script, just to get you the basic setup. We'll start by getting the reference to the material that we're using for the webcam. This is a serialized field, so we can set it in the inspector. We'll keep it private, as we don't need to access it outside this script. Then we can add another private serialized field of type string called webcam name. I'll default this to Brio 4K Stream Edition, which is the name of my main web camera. We'll use this to select the webcam we want to use in case you have multiple attached. Then in our start method, we'll just get everything set up. For brevity, I'll assume you're building for a PC. If you want to use this on a mobile device, you'll need more wrapper code here to check you've got the correct permissions to access the camera. There's a link in the description to the Unity help page that has information on how to set that up. The first thing we'll do is log out all the webcams that are available. This will enable you to then add the name of yours to the webcam name as needed. All the available webcams are available from webcamTexture.Devices. We'll add these to an array of type webcam device called devices. We can then loop over these webcam device objects with a simple for each loop. Here I'll just log out the device.name so we can see what is available. Now we want to select one of the available devices to use. To do this, we create a new webcam texture, which I'll call webcamTexture. You can just call new to get the default camera with some default resolution and FPS. However, let's be explicit in the new call. The first argument is our device to get, so we'll pass in our webcam name to this. Then our resolution, so let's put 1920 by 1080. Finally the FPS, which I'll have at 30. If the webcam name doesn't exist in the devices list, this will error, so you'll want to put some error checking around this, either to handle it gracefully or maybe fall back to the default camera if the requested one isn't found. The webcam texture type inherits from texture, so you can use it as such. It just has some extra methods on top. To this end, we'll assign the main texture on our webcam material to be this webcam texture. That means our quad, which uses this material, will have the texture linked to the webcam. The final thing we need to do is start the webcam. We can do this with webcamTexture.Play. That should be all we need. I will note here that there are .stop and .pause methods on the webcam which you may want to utilize. But that'll do for now. Let's jump back into Unity and check that out. First thing we need to do is drag our material into the field on our quad's instance of the script. The webcam name is already populated with the default I added into the script. Let's enter play mode and see if this works. And just like that, we've got the webcam on our quad. Excellent. If we look at the console, you can see that we have all our available cameras. I've got my Elgato game capture card, the Brio 4K Logitech, an older 1080p webcam, and the OBS virtual camera, whatever that is. If you're on the PC, then you can actually have several webcams all rendering out at the same time. This is not true for iOS and Android platforms. To demonstrate this, I've duplicated the webcam game object. I'll just drag it to the side and align our camera so it can see them both. We can now duplicate the material we're using and drag this copy onto our second quad. We'll also need to drag it onto the script. We could have made the script take the material directly from the mesh renderer, but by having the explicit material, it means you can easily reuse the material if you want multiple screens with the same image on. If I open up the console again, I'll just copy the name of my other webcam and add this to the webcam name on this second script. Okay, let's check that out. We can see we've got the 4K logic in front of me, and the 1080p is behind me, keeping an eye on Bowser. That's all there is to it. I hope you found this tutorial useful in some way, and a big thank you to all my Patreon supporters. As ever, the full code is on GitHub and linked in the description below. See you next time.